Hey, how you doing?
Take me back to when you first saw that casting call. Did you think, hey, yeah, I can do that?
Yeah, I saw it when everybody else did online, actually, and I reached out to my agents, and I was like, hey, are we going to get an audition for this? And we got a tape. I put it on tape, and then didn't hear anything back for 4 months.
Did you think it was going to be you? Did you think you had a shot?
Initially, I did. Yeah, I was like, you know what? I'd be really good for this. And then I didn't hear back for 4 months. So then I thought, okay, yeah, they're going to give it to some, superstar. And then
I heard you say you thought they were going to do a Jake Gyllenhaal. Prince of Persia. I think I read that in an interview.
No. I knew that they were gonna go authentic because they were putting so much time in. But I thought they were gonna give it to like a star.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I kind of just forgot about it. I moved on, as actors tend to do, and then 4 months later, we started hearing back.
I also heard that when they called you, what did you have, like a couple of days?
Yes, I found out I got cast on a Wednesday. Had to fly to London for 7 months on a Friday.
Yeah, it's easy.
So a day and a half. It's a good thing I was single, didn't really have anything tying me down. And yeah, it was just like, great. I don't have anything else going on.
You were packed. You were like someone who was expecting a baby, just like a luggage packed by the door.
I kind of was, because I was in Toronto finishing up a film, but I had moved to LA, so I had luggage in LA and Toronto, and I just kind of got up and left.
So I want to talk a little bit about the expectations that come with a role like this. But first, I just want to talk about Aladdin. So, me and you, what are you, 27 or something like that? 28?
I am 27,
So
yes.
I'm 31.
Okay.
So I think we both grew up watching Aladdin.
1987?
87, that's right.
Yeah.
So we both grew up watching Aladdin on VHS. What do you remember from watching the old Aladdin?
Robin Williams inspired me to be an actor, so this was one of the prolific performances of the 90s, and I have two older sisters, so they had it playing on at the house before I could even walk and talk, so it meant a lot to me. And at the same time, it was one of the only characters that looked like me, that I could relate to on screen, that I could identify with, so it meant a lot.
Did you have a favorite song, a favorite moment?
I think One Jump was what I was looking forward to shooting in our rendition, because that's the first time, Aladdin's really introduced in the story, and he does some ridiculous things in the animation. I was like, how ridiculous are we going to get? So I think Guy did a phenomenal job.
Remember that scene in the original where Prince Ali, I think Robin Williams, the genie, throws all the men at Aladdin, and he holds them up in his hand, right?
Yes.
I remember watching that and going, how are they going to do that? How are they gonna...
And they become smaller too, I think, somehow, the men, when he holds them up.
Yeah, and then he gets buff and he lifts them up and stuff like
Yeah.
that, Did you, when you were watching Aladdin, when you were, watching it on VHS as a kid, you mentioned your sisters, did you want to be a performer then?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, certainly, I watched it all growing up, so certainly there was a time, this is something from Mrs. Doubtfire, another quote I love, when she goes, Mr. Hillard, do you think you're funny? And he goes, there was a time when I thought I was funny, but today you have proved me wrong. Thank you. Sorry, my mind is going weird places, little sleep. But yes, there was a time when I was watching Aladdin when I certainly thought, I could play him.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a wild thought to have.
Well,
man.
because there's not a lot of them. Like, what are my choices? Aladdin and Prince of Persia. Like, those are my two choices,
Yeah.
So.
And then not even Prince of Persia, really.
Yeah, not really, because now they'd be like, you're not Persian. So,
Right.
exactly.
So you eventually get into acting in high school. You really enjoy it. When it comes time to go to university, you pick a really different path. So neuroscience, right?
Yes, sir.
How did that end up happening?
Well, I was just encouraged to become a doctor growing up. Both my sisters are pharmacists, so my parents wanted me to be the doctor of the household. And I was good at chemistry. I took AP chemistry in high school, and I enjoyed it, actually. So I thought, you know what? I don't really like physics or calculus. Biology's all right. I don't really like these things, but I like chemistry. I'll give it a shot. And then when I went to neuroscience, I fell in love with psychology because it's very, acting related. But everything else was just horrible. I was sitting in calculus. They were talking about infinity and the square root of my left toe. And I thought, why do I need to know this at all? So
you were facing down a potential life of something that you weren't passionate about.
Exactly. Yes.
I can't imagine how that must have felt.
it sucks, but you try to justify it. It's funny. I have a lot of friends who have gone through with that, become pharmacists or engineers, and they're like, "Oh man, I wish I would have done something else." And I didn't want to be one of those people.
So when does that arrive? When does that decision arrive?
I was literally sitting in calculus class thinking those thoughts, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave it up to fate. I'll audition for theater school, and if I get in, I'll do it. I'll tell my parents and I'll do it. And if I don't get in, I'll stick with psychology. I was like, I'll leave it up to God. So I did. I auditioned. I didn't even audition for that many, and I got in. So I was like, all right, I'm doing it.
So how was it telling your folks?
It was tough. They're immigrants. We all are. I'm an immigrant too. I forget sometimes because I came so young. But,
how old were you?
Three and a half.
Right.
So they just want their kids to do well. They don't want them to struggle the way that they did. So they were upset and worried, but I stuck my ground.
I can't imagine how. Yeah, I mean that's not an easy conversation to have.
Yeah, no, it sucked for a while, but yeah, we're all the better for following our dreams. So I think you should always follow your dreams.
Well, they must be happy now, hey?
They are. Yes, big smiles, big smiles.
I can imagine, but I can imagine the phone call you get to give. I'm sure your folks were worried about you.
Yeah, I actually didn't even call them because I was in Toronto. I went over and I woke them up at 3 a.m, and my mom was like half crying, half sleeping still, and my dad jumped out of bed. It was good. It was a nice moment.
I bet it was. In less than 10 years, you went from being a new theater student, someone taking a risk, to scoring, one of the biggest roles an actor can get in their career.
Yeah.
And you got even more attention coming your way, as an Egyptian Canadian actor, a major starring role in Hollywood. As you mentioned, there's not that many of them.
Yeah.
Does that come with any pressure or responsibility?
Definitely a lot of responsibility. Like I said, I grew up not seeing a lot of people who look like me, and I want to change that for little boys and girls, who are ethnically diverse, who want to pursue the arts, who want to follow their dreams. You've got to see it to believe it, as they say. So I want to be an inspiration for them, I hope.
But what about that pressure? Like this has to go well. I can't imagine having to wear that,
Yeah, I've been doing this a while now that I really don't think like that. And also they took so much time trying to find the right person that I just trusted fate. I trusted Guy. I trusted the producers. And I was like, you know what? If they believe in me, I got to believe in myself, and I just put my head down and did the work.
So let's go back to what I didn't mention before. So you finally get the call that you've gotten this role that thousands of people have auditioned for. Worldwide casting call. You're Willy Wonka, man.
The golden ticket.
You got the golden ticket. Well, you earned, as opposed to Willy Wonka, who found it and got his lazy grandfather up.
Yeah, exactly.
You earned it.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't find it inside a chocolate bar.
No. Now, that's how they got Will Smith. He found it inside.
Well, yeah, he's worked 30 years to earn the chocolate bar.
I think he's done okay.
After 30 years, you get a chocolate bar or two.
Yeah, I think so too. He's good. He's good in the film too. So what was that like? That phone call, like to say that, hey, you got Aladdin?
I have this rule with my reps. I tell them when I test for things and I don't book them, I tell them don't call me, just text me, so that I can process it on my own. I don't want to have to talk to anybody. Just text me. And it's happened before where they've called me and they're like, "Oh, you didn't get it." I'm like, "What happened to our rule, guys? What is this?" So they called me and they tried to trick me another way. My manager told me, "You're gonna have to go to London again." And I was like, to test again? Really? I've tested twice. And he's like, no, to start working on the film. And I was like, what? What'd you say? So it was very exciting, but I had to keep it a secret for a few days. So,
is your manager Chandler from Friends? Like, isn't that what he does in that? He's like...
Actually, he's kind of silly like that sometimes, but I love him.
I didn't, how did the date go? Not great, except that we're getting married.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
He did that to you.
Yeah.
So tell me about the processing, like as opposed to the negative processing that you have to do when you don't get a role. What goes through your head when you get a role like this? Besides, I have to leave in a couple of days, but just emotionally, what goes through your head?
I thought this is it. You only get this opportunity once. I think if you're lucky enough and you work hard enough. There's a great quote by an MLB executive. He says, "Luck is the residue of design." But I think nonetheless, you kind of only get that opportunity once. So it's exciting and it's great and you feel on top of the world, but at the same time you're like, all right, this is it. Like this is the moment I've been waiting for, so I've got to do it. So the way I wrapped my head around that was just I was going to give it my all, leave it all out on the court, as they say.
Can you give me a Will Smith story? What was it like meeting him? Can you give me that one?
Sure, yeah. I was very nervous. We were in the middle of prep, and I think I had dance rehearsal that day. He was talking to Guy Ritchie,
The director.
the director
Some of my
the
favorite
film.
films too, by the way. I
Yes.
love Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I love Snatch.
Yeah, Man from U.N.C.L.E., I think,
that's
one
right.
of my favorites from recent years. And so I was like, all right, Guy, I've been spending a lot of time with Guy. I'm going to go over there and he's going to introduce me to Will. So I go over there and, as you are, it's kind of like when you see a beautiful girl and one of your other girlfriends is there and you're like, my other girlfriend's going to introduce me. Like she'll do this. It's fine. And you go over there and she never does. Like Guy never introduced me to Will. So it was really awkward. He was like, what is going on here? I walk away and I'm like, I got to go back and introduce myself. So I went back and I told him, who I was, and he gave me a big hug and we started talking, but I was very nervous.
I bet you were, man. That's the Fresh Prince.
Yeah, dude.
You should have done it for him. You should have done the theme song for him. I'm sure he would have loved that.
I don't know. It's nerve-wracking when you're like, I'm going to spend a lot of time with this person. Got to do it the right way.
You want to make the right impression. I understand. So you've mentioned before that you see some similarities between you and your character Aladdin, right?
Yeah.
In particular, this idea that Aladdin is trying to figure out who he is, figuring out his identity all throughout the film. And you've said that's something you've gone through, and it's something actually you're still going through. What do you mean by that?
I think this idea of personal identity and figuring out who you are is a long life pursuit. It's something that you go through, I think, in extremes at certain ages, but we certainly continue to go through it throughout life. It's what people call, you're having a midlife crisis. That's what they mean. And me and Guy would get into extensive conversations actually about this idea of the ego and the id. But, essentially, who you are as a human being is shaped by all the things that people tell you and how people treat you throughout your life. And we're constantly going on this journey to unraveling those layers of what people have told you. People have told you you're smart. People have told you you're funny. It's like you're trying to unravel those layers to really figure out who you are. So I think it's a fascinating concept.
So how does that relate to you then?
When I was in high school, I looked very different from a lot of people. I was definitely the minority. I spoke a different language at home. I ate different food. I'd come to school, and I think I made a good impression. People liked me, but I was very different, and that's something Aladdin goes through. He's loved by his community, but he is an outcast in a way. So that's really what I meant by that.
I hope you're really proud, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.